Hey everybody, your old pal Tekking101 here, back again for another yearly installment of The End of Bleach. Plot points that need addressed. They need addressed. They need addressed, Kubo. If they are not addressed by the end of this series, I'm gonna fly to Japan, you know, with somebody else's money because I have none, and I'm gonna go to your house and I'm gonna tell you how I feel. And then I'm going to politely leave the premises, and you will probably be very confused. So, here are the annotation links to the different sections of this video, because these are always really long. I think the first one I did was like 30. They're usually about a half an hour long. And yeah, this will be the third one I do, and I usually just do these time of year just to kind of cover where we've come since last year, and, you know, what new revelations have appeared in the past year, and where we're going to go from here. You know, and I think Kubo is catching on, though. I think he's catching on to when I do these, because I wrote down a list of the stuff that I was going to talk about maybe like a week ago, like not a week ago, more like 4 or 3 weeks ago, something like that. And since then, we've had two huge big plot revelations. We've had the revelation regarding Yhwach finally showing back up, and then we've had the revelation involving, oh, by the way, spoilers, and we've had the revelation involving Yhwach's final goal, where he's going to go. He's going to go to the Soul Palace. So I wrote down Yhwach in this, so I'm just going to scratch that off the list, because we know what she's been doing, as well as, you know, Yhwach's final goal, which is something I've been talking about for months on end, but I'm going to scratch that off the list because we know what he's going to do now. Well, I'm going to talk about it more, but it's not like about where he's going, it's about what he's going to do when he gets there, involving the Soul Palace. But let's start off with a topic here that I usually save for the end of these, but considering where we're going with this, I think we're going to get this very soon. I really hope I'm not back here next year stating, sorry guys, I said it would be soon, but I guess we had to wait a whole other year. And that is Grimmjow, Jaggerjack, former Sixth Espada, appearing back on the scene. And this doesn't just go for Grimmjow, this goes for everybody, all the Espada, well, I guess I should say all the former Espada, because without Aizen, the whole idea of having Espada as like a, you know, military force is kind of crumbling, so they're still around, but they're not, like, I can't really be called Espada anymore. It's pointless without a commander. So, that doesn't just go for Grimmjow, this goes for Nell, this goes for, I guess, Gantenbein, Loli, Menoli, and all the other random Arrancars that were in Huecamundo, the Huecamundo army that I have been calling them. And I'm a little pissed off that they didn't show up when Urahime and Chad arrived on the scene, because there was really no point for Urahime and Chad to get to the Soul Society and just leave the rest of the army behind. Like, yeah, we'll go on ahead, you guys show up after this. Like, there's no reason for that. Unless Urahara, you know, maybe, like, contacted Urahime and Chad directly and says, hey, yeah, some shit's going down, you should probably get over here right now. But, yeah. And let's not talk so much about when he's going to show up. Let's talk about what new powers he's going to have. Specifically, the one everyone's going to be talking about, if he has Segunda Etapa. Something that's weird to me with the Segunda Etapa is that everybody's expecting either Harribel or Grimmjow, possibly both, to have a Segunda Etapa. Everyone's kind of forgetting about Nell. I mean, they haven't forgotten about her, they know she's there, and just be like, oh yeah, well, Urahime could have healed Nell's skull, so she could be back up into her normal adult form, but everyone kind of just, like, oh, does she have a Segunda Etapa? I don't think I've heard that theory once. And I'm like, that would make even more sense than Grimmjow, considering the fact that, you know, Nell, if she was returned back, because we don't really know her exact power gauge when she was in her adult form. We know that the power has shifted in the Espada, because, you know, Noitoro was kind of a match for her, but I think she could maybe do it. Don't like, completely, you know, rule it out or whatever. I mean, she's still a third Espada. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about Grimmjow and Harribel. So, Grimmjow, number one, if there was going to be any of the former Espada to have a Segunda Etapa, it would be Grimmjow. And this is where Harribel fans are going to get really mad at me. I do not think she's going to playing a major role in this arc. If nothing else, I think that the Arrancars might, except for Grimmjow, because Grimmjow kind of is going with his own sort of, his own drive, his own personal goal in this matter. Urahara said he made a nice contract with him. But I think all the other Arrancar and Espada are going to, or former Espada, I should say, like now, are going to be wanting to attack the Quincy's to get Harribel back. I think that's going to be their driving force, okay? Maybe the fact that, you know, the Quincy's stormed in, wrecked their fucking home, and then stole, like Halibel was basically leading Hueco Mundo. Pesce even said that, you know, Stark is dead, Baragon's dead, Halibel was technically governing the place, and then the Quincy's just stomped in, burned everything down, and hauled her off to the sex dungeon. So, yeah, I'm thinking maybe that's the reason they're going to be wanting to do it. I mean, the Thrace Bestia, of course, because that's, you know, Halibel was their master, but, you know, I think all the other Arrancar are just going to be doing, you know, for that reason. You know, we're going to get Halibel back, and she might appear at the very end of the arc, you know, as kind of like, oh, the Quincy's have been defeated, you know, Halibel's been rescued from the castle, you know, what, thank you, whatever. But I don't see her just bursting out of the Silver, you know, wrecking shit in her released form. I don't see her doing that. I don't see her being released from that place until the very end of the arc, if she gets released at all. Remember, Halibel's never been a really major character, so she could be dead. Like, we didn't get really a definite answer whether or not she was dead, so that's my opinions on Halibel. As for Grimmjow, he's going to show up soon. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my bones, because Chapter 500 was when he appeared in front of Urahara. We all know it was him at this point. It's been pretty much confirmed. It was Grimmjow. And Chapter 589 just passed. I'm like, okay, 10 more chapters. 600. Kubo... You know, that's kind of a dick move to wait 100 chapters for a cliffhanger, but I think he's going to do it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen then. It's going to happen in and around chapter 600. Not only for the fact that Grimmjow is the former 6th spot. I can see the title page now. I can see the title page, Grimmjow showing up on the scene. He doesn't even have to show his face. He can just show up at the end of the chapter, and then, like a flap of wind is going to take the back of his shirt, and we'll see a 6, and then Kubo will fill in the other zeros. Chapter 600, the Panthers, like, reckoning or some shit. You know it's going to happen like that. But, yeah, he's going to be showing up soon. I can feel it in my bones, and if I'd be completely understanding if he had Segundo Etapa. So that's my opinion on Grimmjow, Segundo Etapa. Who he's going to fight, I don't freaking know. The popular opinion is Bazby, but now Bazby's fighting against Rukia and Byakuya, so maybe he might show up on that battlefield. Maybe he might fight one of the Stern Ritters that hasn't shown up yet. Maybe that's what Kubo's doing. He's keeping like L, M, and N, you know, on, like, well, I guess I shouldn't say L, M, and N because we don't know, you know, which ones Shaz and Pepe and Colonel Sanders are, but they're keeping 3 Stern Ritters in the reserves for whenever the extra forces show up, so they have somebody to show off the fights with. Maybe that's what he's doing, you know? But yeah, that's Grimmjow. Going next to the other invading force, or I should say other force, is the Fullbringers, as well as Kukaku plus Ganju. We don't know if Kukaku's going to join in the fray. I would like to see her kick some ass, but Ganju definitely is, plus the Fullbringers, Tsukishima, Ginjo, and Gariko. Now, I said this in the last chapter, that Kubo really kind of squandered this. He could have shown the scene where, you know, where Ichigo, Orihime, and Chad had to go up to the Soul Palace. They could have just went back to Kukaku's house, and then we could have gotten an update on the Fullbringers and Kukaku and Ganju, and they could have been like, oh, we're going to go with you, you know, to the Soul Palace to do some stuff, actually. But no, they stay in the Seirete, or the Vondante, I should say. Is that because they couldn't leave? Is that because they were pressed for time? They had to go right now? But whatever, I'm just saying you probably had a prime opportunity there to show everybody off, Kubo, and you squandered it, but hey, maybe you have another idea. Now, in terms of the Fullbringers, whereas we talked with Grimmjow having Segundo Etapa, everyone's pretty much coming to the consensus that the Fullbringers are going to get wrecked. That the Fullbringers don't really have a lot of power enough to fight against the Stern Ritters, even after training in the Rukongai. Like, even if you look at it that way, how many months have really passed since the beginning of since between the Fullbringer arc and the final Year Blood War arc? My opinion was a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, you know, and you know, time doesn't really work that differently between the Seirete between the Soul Society and the World of Living, unless you get the Dongai involved, and that doesn't usually happen. So it's like a couple months of training with Kukaku and Ganju. I can't really see the Fullbringers having a huge different power gap. Are they still going to have the abilities that they were given to them by Ichigo? Possibly. Like how, you know, Gariko had his, you know, advanced time tell no lies. Is Ginjo still going to be able to do his Bankai? I could go off on a whole other rant about Ginjo. How he was a human that became a substitute Shinigami, but then lost his powers somehow. We still don't know how. He was exiled from the Soul Society somehow. He did some nefarious shit. So then he just became a normal human, but then he mastered Fullbring. But wait, how could he master Fullbring? Was his mom attacked by a Hollow? So his mom was attacked by a Hollow, then he became a substitute Shinigami, then he lost his powers, then he used his Fullbring. So kind of a very similar to Ichigo there, just a little bit. And then he absorbed Ichigo's Fullbring powers, and then he was still able to use Bankai, all while still in his human body. So, you know, that's a massive mindfuck if there ever was one. I made a whole video about 5 things that don't make sense in Bleach. Grimmjow is number 4, so go watch that, I guess. But, yeah, so just disregarding Grimmjow. Grimmjow, if there was going to be any one of the 3 Fullbringers that could stand up against the Stern Ritters, it's going to be Grimmjow. Alright, now let's look at Tsukishima and Gariko. Tsukishima, you know, people have been saying, well, his ability would be perfect to fight against a Stern Ritter because he can manipulate their memories, and he can, like, make a Stern Ritter into his ally, or he could just fuck with their memories or whatever. And, you know, I'm thinking, like, yeah, that would be great if he could get in close to use his power. I mean, Tsukishima, you know, once he cuts you, he can pretty much dominate the fights. You know, it took Byakuya kind of like, he kind of had to do a trick at the end in order to kill him. It wasn't easy by any means, you know, Byakuya wasn't just like, okay, I could do this and then I can win. It's just like, more like, okay, I have to almost sacrifice myself here, you know, he shredded himself up pretty damn good in that fight. So, yeah, if Tsukishima can get in close and, you know, cut a Stern Ritter up, and then maybe he might be able to dominate the fight after that, but until then, Tsukishima's not going to know anything about the Stern Ritter's abilities. You know, his Book of the End, you know, he cuts somebody and he, like, inserts themselves, like, okay, this is how you do this is how your power works. But, you know, until that happens, you know, he's a sitting duck, and if there's, like, multiple enemies at once, I don't know how he's going to handle. That's the key to fighting Tsukishima. That's actually the key. Multiple people fighting him at the same time, because you figure if you have 3 or 4 people ganging up on the dude, you know, he might be able to cut 1 or 2 of them, but, you know, that's kind of the secret there. So, you know, but if I could see, if he could cut one, maybe he might be able to run the fight. Maybe he might be able to run the playing field. He has no power on his own. I mean, Grimmjow said, oh yeah, his Book of the End can cut through anything. I don't know if that was him just saying, like, oh, well, that was under the memory influence. That's not really what it can do. Or maybe it can. I don't know. But, yeah, he might be able to do it if he gets really freaking lucky. Giriko... Let's face it, if there's not going to be any Fullbringers that are going to die again, it's going to be Giriko. It is. You know, if there's going to be any one of them that's just going to get one-shotted, it's going to be him. Because, you know, out of Tsukishima and Grimmjow, they were like the main characters, the main antagonists of the Fullbringer arc. Giriko is just kind of in the background. He's just there for continuity's sake. He's there because Kubo killed him off, and it wouldn't make any sense for Tsukishima and Grimmjow to be there and not Giriko. So, I'm sorry, Giriko. I'm pretty sure you're going to die again, brah. It's been fun. So, that's the Fullbringers. As for Gonju, I mean, we haven't seen him in God knows how many chapters. We haven't seen him since the Soul Society arc, so, you know, he probably enhanced his sand magic, his earth magic, his whatever Keto he uses, his modified Keto. Other than that, I'm pretty sure he has a few new, you know, tricks up his sleeve, you know, other than just the Seppa. So, you know, well, that's just more of, like, we haven't seen him in so long. He has probably a whole new bag of tricks that Kubo gave him, so, you know, he might be a stand-up against the Stern Ritter. He might not be. I'm not 100% sure. Alright, so next on the list we had Yoruichi, and, yeah, I'm just going to cut that off here. Next up is the remaining Stern Ritter. Not going to talk a lot about this one, more so just the fact of the ones of my personal theories, which ones are the ones that are unknown yet, like Colonel Sanders Quincy, Shaz Domino. So for this one we had Shaz Domino, I'm thinking is going to be Stern Ritter X. I think he's going to be the X-Ray because, you know, like, just look at the freaking, you know, dictionary here. Like, there's not many terms for X that we can look at. I did this on a live stream before, but, yeah, so just looking under X. Yeah, like, I'm skipping over the page because there's so little words here. I think we had, like, something like 14 words we could, you know, work with here. W. Okay, here, X. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 words. 16 words in this dictionary that start with X. And, you know, the most common, I mean, he could pick a word that not a lot of people know. Like, I don't know, Zoroitis. Xerotes. And he could be like Stern Ritter Zertis, and it just means a dry habit of the body. So, I don't know, he can dry people out, but no one's gonna fucking know what that is. There's Ziphoid, which is an adjective. It means shaped like a sword. So that could maybe make sense for X, considering some of the Quincy's use swords. But, yeah, I'm thinking he's just going to go with X-Ray, and whichever Stern Ritter gets it, if it's Shaz Domino, would be able to see through structures. And considering his first, only time we see Shaz Domino is when he was breaking through that barrier that the 12th Division made, and, he's, chucking the knives at Akon, maybe he saw through the barrier. Maybe he can just see through anything. Also, he was wearing glasses, that can indicate it. His motif is kind of leopard or cat-like. Cats have good eyes. So, or, cats, just have a better, eyesight than humans. So maybe that's an indication of that. But so that's X. W, I'm thinking, is going to be Colonel Sanders Quincy. We still don't know his name yet. He's the only Stern Ritter who we have seen, yet we have not known his name. So I'm thinking he's going to be W. W, more of a, less options for, words, but, there's still quite a many of them. I circled some in here. The Wanderer, the War, the, I think that's the only ones I circled. But yeah, there's a lot of them here, and you can adapt that to anything but the guns. So yeah, there's a lot of options here. There's way more W words than I thought of, way more. So there's that. As for Pepe, I just threw in M. M could indicate mind because he was, he had that staff and he could kind of manipulate the Stern Ritters when they were fighting in chapter 543. We had, Basby kind of getting on the nerve, Basby and, was it Basby and Hugo? Hashwolf getting kind of agitated, and then I think Askin was in the corner, and Askin's just like, someone's watching you right now, like an onlooker. So that could maybe indicate that Pepe had something to do with that, so maybe he can manipulate the mind. Another theory with him that somebody brought up, and I can't remember your name, I apologize, this was a while ago, was that Pepe's staff kind of reminds me of something. It took me a while to figure out, and when I read the comment, I got it. It kind of looks like the medical symbol in terms of like Medwell and everything, how like the two snakes that are combining, and then you see the eye at the center, and like that's kind of looking like the medical symbol. So I'm like, maybe he's M the medic. Hey, it would make a lot of sense for, out of all these Stern Ritters, to have a medical officer, to have some kind of, a healer of some sort. So maybe that's what he's for. We haven't seen him in combat yet. He's kind of just like Askin, whereas, he's like Askin's chilling out, having a picnic. Pepe just shows up from behind him, just kind of watching the battle too. So that's the thing with Pepe. And then after that, we have if that was the case, we still have C, L, and N. We still have 3 Stern Ritters even after the Pepe, Colonel Sanders, and Shaz Domino's letters have been known. C, I've had a theory for the cold. I've had a theory because, to offset Basby's heat, we have a fire Stern Ritter, we have an electric Stern Ritter. It would make sense to have an ice type one, and other than we have Rukia and Toshiro, but obviously they're not, they're not part of the enemy camp. So you figure the enemies are going to at least have one. If we're going elemental with it, we're going to have one, but it's somebody that can manipulate cold or something. So that's my theory on the remaining Stern Ritters. L and N, I have no idea. I have nothing. I mean, maybe N is the nothingness or something. I don't know. L, I'm drawing a blank. So let me know in your theories below. Next up is, Nozarashi. Okay, Kenpachi's Zanpakuto. This is a big one because this is something we found out, from last year that I thought of, I think last year I said, it's coming up soon. It's not going to come up until we see him again. And back then I even kind of had an idea. I think it was like chapter 542, 543 the last time I did this. And I think it was beyond after that. I think it was right before they went on the break. They went on the break on chapter 546. I think I made this catch-up video like two chapters before that. But anyway, we have Nozarashi, and it was a little bit of a, I don't want to say letdown when it was explained what it was. I mean, it was really cool to see Kenpachi's Zanpakuto, how freaking big it was. Like, it was like the giant meat cleaver of an Oni that would just pick it up and, hack you to bones or something, like in some kind of folklore or some shit. What was kind of disappointing is that if it could do anything special or unique, we didn't find that out. All we really found out was it's a big fuck-off sword, or meat cleaver, however you want to describe it, and it can cut up a giant-ass meteor. Or whatever it comes in contact with gets destroyed. I've heard a bunch of theories about this. I've heard a theory that it absorbs the power from whenever it strikes. So when Kenpachi cut up that meteor, that's what made Nozarashi so freaking big and gigantic that it cut the meteor up. Because we didn't actually see a transitional period when it transformed. We just saw him cut that freaking meteor, and then the huge thing he's holding in his shouldering. So it might be something like that. It might be like whatever he cuts absorbs the energy, and then that would make sense for Kenpachi. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. We didn't see any unique abilities it could do other than it could cut through, Gremmy's little pocket dimension that he made, his galaxy room, but that was it. And then Kenpachi immediately gets one-shotted by the Stern Ritter clique, and he's still in that crater. Just reminding everybody, he's still sitting in that crater. Maybe the shockwave of the light tunnel that Yhwach and Hashwolf and Uryu went up, maybe the shockwave of that knocked him out of the tunnel, of the crater, I mean, and, you know, send him flying away, and he, like, crashed against a building, and now he's just lying there bleeding out slowly. He's not dead, obviously. He's freaking Kenpachi Zaraki, but I don't think he's going to show up in the fight for a while. But, you know, he's going to show up again. He's going to show up again. I'm sure this wasn't the last. That's the thing about the final arc. You have to consider, like, when is their final battle going to be? When is it we're going to see, you know, Renji's final battle, Rukia's final battle? Okay, those are main characters. So those people might have, like, they might be with Ichigo to the very end. But what about lesser known characters that aren't technically main characters, like Shinji? Shinji, I love Shinji. Don't get me wrong, I love Shinji. But when is Shinji's last fight going to be? You know, is it going to be, you know, when he fights against Bat? Is that going to be it? Is he going to get another shining moment? What about Komamura? What about, you know, Shunsui or Ukitake? Ukitake hasn't even shown up yet. You know, when is their last battle going to be? And, you know, Kubo has to, like, think ahead of this. You know, he can't have the last battle with Yhwach feature everybody in the main cast, unless we're going to go some... did you ever see Broly, the Dragon Ball Z movie, the first Broly movie? I think the legendary Super Saiyan Broly, and then Broly is beating the ever-loving shit out of the Z Fighters, and at the very end of the movie, it's like Goku gets all the power from all his friends, like, we believe in you! Boom! I win, Broly! Broly, whatever, you know? And it's just like, really? Really? That's how we're doing it? That's how we're going out? So... You know, unless Kubo does something like that, where it's like, all the people, we believe in you, Ichigo, we're giving you your power, and Ichigo summons a giant Getsuga Tensho that's like the size of the moon, and it just cuts down Yhwach, and he's just like, no, and then disappears into fade away, and then like, oh, we're all heroes. You know, no, that's not how that's gonna go. That's not how that's gonna go. But, I would like to see what Nozarashi could do. Like, if it has any special abilities, Kubo, please show us. Please show us. We don't need to see his Bankai. I don't think we're going to see his Bankai, but please give it some kind of special ability. At least elaborate on this a little bit. At least fish him out of the damn crater. I mean, come on. That's not cool. Alright, next. Moving on. Yhwach and the Soul Palace and the Grand... Sorry, my ear felt like it was going to pop there for a second. And the grand scheme, you know, where Yhwach is going to be going with all this. Why is he at the Soul Palace? Alright, so... A lot of theories on this, all revolving around the Soul King. Is Yhwach part of the Soul King? Is Yhwach going to kill the Soul King? Is the Soul King Aizen? Well, you knew that had to pop up anywhere. Anytime any new character is mentioned in Bleach, and they kind of look like mysterious. Like, it's Aizen, calling it now. Askanek, Levar, calling it Aizen. Soul King, calling it Aizen. Zero Squad members calling it their Aizen. You know, you have to throw that in anywhere because Aizen fucked everybody up because of the freaking, you know, perfect hypnosis. So now, every time a character shows up or anything even vaguely mysterious happens in the series, be like, what the hell's that? What's that in the background? Page 16, fourth panel. That looks like there's a little shadow thing in the background. That must be Aizen. You know, has to be something. Has to be something because he's like, we're doubting it constantly. It's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's like, you know, where you're fighting against aliens, then you wake up in bed, and then there's zombies, and then you wake up again, and then, you know, it looks all normal, but then there's more zombies, then you wake up again, and it's like, am I real? Is this reality? I don't know if this is a dream. That's the Bleach universe with Aizen. He M. Night Shyamalan this bitch. But in terms of the Soul Palace, I mentioned this in my Yhwach video, that I think this goes back to, like, the creation of everything. Like, we're going old school on this. We're going back to, like, Let There Be Light in terms of the Bleach universe. Because, pretty sure, you know, the Soul King may or may not be the closest... I mean, it's the closest thing to God we have. We don't know if it has the abilities of, like, the Christian God, like Yahweh. Like, he created the entire universe. We don't know if that's where he fits in. But I think he created the Soul Society. Maybe it was, like, before the Soul Society... Before Hell existed, before all of that, you know, there was just like this massive, like, conglomeration of Reiatsu, just the souls just floating aimlessly. And then out of the darkness, the Soul King came. And the Soul King created balance out of all this. He created the world of the living, he created Hell, he created the Soul Society, and that maintained balance. But... It's like some kind of like a Zen thing. It's like you can't have evil without good. You can't have good without evil. It has to exist side by side. So whenever the Soul King came into existence and he created this, a flip side shadow version of all these were created, and then we had the shadow world where Yhwach inhabits, and then Yhwach is like the antithesis of the Soul King. He's the negative Soul King, should we say. And this is even kind of elaborated on when, you know, they arrive in the Soul Palace, Yhwach, you know, Hashwolf and Uryu, and Hashwolf's like giving his condolences to Yhwach, like, you know, what they're witnessing right now, the Soul Palace and the Soul King, is something that has a deep connection to Yhwach, you know, and the idea of killing the Soul King would merit, like, maybe killing part of himself, or maybe, you know, something like that. And Yhwach's response is just like, I'm staring at, like, a rotted tombstone right now. So there's a connection there, certainly. And I think mine makes the most sense, because we don't even know where Yhwach came from. We've known he's been around 1,000 years ago, but he could have been around a fuck of a lot more longer than that. He could have been around 10,000, 100,000, a million years ago. So, you know, I think that's how it's going to end out. You know, however old the Soul King is going to be Yhwach, and vice versa, and they were created side by side, because Yhwach just kind of, like, appeared one day as an infant, as a baby, you know, but that might have not even been the beginning. Where did he come from? You know, I'm pretty sure it wasn't just like he wasn't born like a normal person. He might have just appeared in the Reeves someday, like Moses, you know? So yeah, that's my theory on Yhwach and the Soul Palace. You know, what he would have to gain by killing the Soul King. I don't know if this is like some Kami Piccolo thing where if he kills the Soul King, he dies too. Probably not. Just for the sake that this is his goal, assuming he wants to kill the Soul King. Why else would he be in the Soul Palace? I mean, unless there's something there he needs to get, but I don't even see that going. So it's a lot of speculation, and I could just keep rambling on, like, why he's in the Soul Palace, why does he want to, like, what does he want to do with the Soul King, and I could just go on a rant for this for way longer, but I'm just going to end this here. Thanks for this section here. Leave comments below on that. Alright, next up is Aizen. It's always fun to talk about Aizen in these. M. Night Shyamalan and Bleach. Alright. I'm not going to mention it too much because we don't really know much more about it. We honestly don't. The last time we got any kind of elaboration on what Aizen's doing in terms of the canon of the series was when Aizen, you know, manipulated Yhwach's sense of time. We had the flashback, you know, but that was also last year. I covered that. I covered the whole Misaki backstory in the last video. So, you know, there's not really a lot to talk about Aizen. You know, people have been thinking, like, oh, he's disguising himself as Askin. I don't think so. I think because, you know, if he was disguising himself as Askin, you know, Yhwach would know. I mean, he gave the power to Askin, whatever the D was. Aizen gave Askin the D. That's nice. But, yeah, I'm not gonna go on to it that much. I mean, I made a whole video about this. I feel like I'd just be retreading stuff I already mentioned, involving, you know, Askin and, involving Aizen and, you know, when he's gonna show back up. I even asked some questions in there, so just go read the comments in that video, because I asked some questions like, when's Aizen gonna show back up? You know, what side is he gonna be on? Is he, you know, I personally think he's gonna show up and he's gonna be like, he's not gonna join up with Ichigo. He's not gonna be like, I'm your ally now. He might either go off and do his own thing. He's like, fuck, I don't want to get involved in this war. I have no interest in this. I just want to be free. I want to go do my own thing. I'm going to go wander. Or he might fight against the Quincy's, kind of like, I'm not for you or against you, but if your task gets completed, the world, like, everything's going to end. So I don't want everything to end. That's why I'm going to fight you. And I don't know about you, but I mean, Aizen, I hated him as an antagonist. I really did, because, you know, all he did was, you know, I'm not gonna go into it, but I didn't like him as an antagonist. When he started off in Bleach, like, he took off the glass and he's just like, this was all exactly as planned, you know. That was cool. That was awesome. That was a twist I did not see coming. But after that, that whole character just... That being said, if Kubo does this well, if Aizen just shows back up, like, maybe, you know, like, one of the Sterners that we don't know yet is fighting against one of the Shinigami, and the Shinigami's getting beaten down, and then all of a sudden, Aizen shows up behind them, and he's like, he says something trolling shit, and then fights against the Stern Ritter. I kind of like to see that. I would kind of like to see Aizen, a one-on-one fight with somebody. Don't pull any of the God mode shit, don't pull any of the, you know, mind-fucking shit, just having a fight against a Stern Ritter using your own Zanpakuto. Because the entire fight in Karakura Town, that can all be attributed to the Hogyoku. Like, he had the Hogyoku, that's why nobody could touch him, that's why, you know, he could basically just, like, pwn all of them because he was in a different dimension, but I mean, he might still have the Hogyoku in him, but it doesn't provide him the same power that it did when he was fighting against Ichigo. If he fights just like a normal Shinigami fights, maybe the Hogyoku made him weaker. Because that would make sense. Because Ichigo was just like, oh, well, you know, he always wanted to be strong. He didn't always want to be strong. Maybe he wanted to be weak like everyone else. Kind of like what Stark wanted. In that case, maybe the Hokyoku gave him a major power drain. And now he doesn't have all the amazing, like, maybe he could still use the Kido, but he doesn't have, like, he has a limited amount of Ryatsu. He can't just spawn out, like, 30 black coffins whenever he wants to, or he can't, you know, just manipulate the fabric of space-time. He's limited to his own Zanpakuto and his own, you know, like limited amount of Ryatsu he has. That would be kind of cool. That would kind of make him a little bit more redeemed, maybe, like, dumb him down a little bit. Sorry. But yeah, other than that, I really don't really have anything else to say. I was going to mention a little bit about Urahara, like, what is his final game here. I hope he gets into a battle soon. I don't know if he's going to go up to the Soul Palace with Ichigo in the group. I mean, he did say, like, we can go, like, shall we go? Can we go on a vacation now? So I think he's going to go to the Soul Palace. And I'm sure we're going to have so much freaking exposition with him when we get up there that, you know, it's going to happen. Like, oh, Urahara, you know, blah, 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 you know, something. I knew you. Or, you know, with Kiryu or with Shutara or something, because Shutara was related to 12th Division in some way. We're definitely going to see his Bankai at the end of the series. I don't think Kubo's going to troll us that much. I think we're going to at least see Urahara's Bankai. But other than that, I really don't see anything else to talk about here. I wrote Rukia's Bankai. I was like, way back when I did this last year, I was like, maybe I should talk about, you know, Rukia and Renji when they appeared from the Soul Palace, but we already know all about that. We know what they can do now, so there's no use in me mentioning that. But yeah, other than that, this has been about 31 minutes long, so that's about right. You know, let me know anything else below in the comments, you know, if you think I should, you know, talk about something else, you know, regarding that. I said a couple months ago that I give me an idea for a discussion video, not a couple months ago, this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, about, a discussion video in Bleach. So now that I've cleared away all the major ones with this video, you know, maybe now I'll pick one of those that I haven't mentioned in this one that you guys want me to talk about. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and hope we'll be back here next year to do this. Personally, I think it's going to end in less than 2 years, but I could always be wrong. It could continue for 3 or 4 or 5, whatever Kubo wants to do. But yeah, so it's been a good year, all things considered. We had a lot of new plot expositions revolving around Yhwach and his character. We honestly knew nothing about the guy last year around this time, and now we at least know his backstory to some degree. So hopefully we'll learn more about it in the year to come. Tekking101, signing out.